Some things are built to last. Tested by the elements, proven by time, engineered for whatever comes next. Summertown Metals. Strength in every storm. Building dreams that last.
From the Tennessee Valley Weather Channel, this is your weather at noon.
Well, good Friday afternoon. Taylor Plott here in the Tennessee Valley Weather Center with a check on your forecast. Obviously, our big focus today is a heavy rain and storm activity with a flash flooding potential and still a very low-end strong storm potential as well. I'll break that down here very shortly. Behind the cold front moving through tomorrow, we're going to be dropping our temperatures back down towards reality for this time of year as we get back down to the 40s before we're back up into the 50s towards the middle of next week. But obviously our big focus is what's happening outside right now and later on tonight. So let's get right into your forecast. First off, take a look at our Arctic Air Skycam network and you see a lot of cloud cover remaining, but you notice once we get towards that Savannah camera, see the clouds kind of in the foreground there. Those are some low stratus clouds, but you kind of, if you can squint your eyes, maybe look a little closer, yeah, there is some blue sky that's starting to peek in across the area, specifically looking off to the west, and there could be a little bit of some clearing that happens. Yes, that would allow us to get a little bit more unstable, but I don't think it's going to really change the way we're thinking of things. I don't think we're going to end up getting surprise storms later on this afternoon from that, but I do think it'll allow our temperatures to warm up ever so slightly, but still, for the most part, looking at a lot of cloud cover on top of Montesano Mountain here in the Huntsville camera, seeing a lot of fog, even some raindrops on the lenses as well. So that's kind of what the things look like outside from a camera perspective. But what about a radar perspective? And we still have a decent amount of some rainfall, primarily east of Interstate 65 right now. For Fayetteville, Pulaski, Lawrenceburg, Waynesboro, Savannah, north towards Lewisburg, Columbia, Spring Hill, and Homewald, even up towards Nashville, you're all dry right now with just some of that cloud cover, but we're still seeing a decent amount of some light, moderate, even heavy rainfall here across parts of northeastern Alabama, so we can go ahead and zoom on in and take a look at that. Right here along Highway 72 from Scottsboro to Woodville, all the way towards the Gurley area right here, still seeing a lot of that moderate to heavy rainfall. For the Huntsville metro area, you're seeing just some light rainfall right now, specifically southeast of I-565, so downtown Huntsville, down towards the Tennessee River, down towards Owens Crossroads and New Hope, seeing some of that light rainfall, even over towards Priceville and Decatur, seeing some of that as well. But for the majority of our viewing area, it's out of our viewing area across parts of Jackson, DeKalb, and Marshall counties. So Scottsboro down towards Crossville, Fort Payne area, over towards Albertville, Boaz, and Gunnersville seeing most of that rainfall right now. Now, backing things out from the radar perspective, you see where the majority of the showers and even the storms are right now. Most of the storm activity has been confined down here across parts of southern Mississippi into southwestern Alabama. We did have a handful of tornado warnings down there near the Hattiesburg, Mississippi area. We got a flash flood warning down east of Jackson right now. This is most likely where the better chance for strong and severe storms will reside, not only for the remainder of the daytime today, but also into the overnight hours going into your early Saturday morning. So looking at the overall perspective here, we're going to end up seeing multiple rounds, but even with that, like I said, the majority of the severe weather risk is going to be off to our south because this is just going to set up a boundary right down here, and that's going to limit the instability from becoming surface-based north of us, meaning that the air at the surface is warm enough and it's rising. So all that better fuel for the thunderstorms will be down here, and any of that southerly wind that tries to punch through that can't because of all the rainfall. This is the initial cold front moving on through. The initial area low pressure is way up here in Canada, but we're getting another wave of low pressure developing off to the southwest. That's going to increase our rain chances going into your evening hours overnight tonight, and that's going to bring us our next batch of storm potential as well. So for now, the latest Storm Prediction Center outlook for today and tonight still holds a level 1 out of 5 for basically along and south of the Tennessee state line, but I can go ahead and tell you with almost pretty good confidence that I really think anything across our area that ends up getting strong or briefly severe tonight will primarily be along and south of the Tennessee River. I think anything north of that, specifically across southern Tennessee, is relatively low and even lower than what that marginal risk should actually represent. So that's kind of from a severe weather outlook perspective. Our main focus is still going to be the flooding potential because we still have that flood watch in effect across the majority of our area. It does not include Hardin County, does not include Tishomingo County. So over there in Savannah, Iuka, you're out of it. But you'll still see some heavy rainfall across our area here from Waynesboro to Fayetteville down towards Huntsville and Hartselle and Falkville. You're seeing that flooding potential later on today and tonight, anywhere from maybe 2, 3 isolated 4-inch totals possible with some of that rainfall that will lead to some flooding. So that's going to be our main focus from a storm threat. But if there is any isolated severe risk that materializes, I think this afternoon's probably off the table. But if we end up getting something overnight tonight, yes, an isolated damaging wind gust around 60 miles per hour is possible. And yes, there is enough wind shear present that a quick spin-up tornado is not impossible, but it's not overly likely given the fact that the setup just really does not favor that, which is a good thing. So our primary focus today and tonight continues to be flooding, but we'll continue to monitor any chance for an isolated stronger severe storm. Let's talk about it with your Futurecast. 7 p.m., that's when we'll start to see more showers develop across the area. Another batch of rain and storms moves through during their late evening hours, as you see here, and then that continues. Wave after wave of showers and storms. Here we go, 2 a.m. overnight tonight, still dealing with this moving on through. But notice we're not really dealing with much in the way of big-time storms, even as we get towards 5 a.m. Matter of fact, this is a brand new run of the Futurecast. If you're joining me on my Facebook Live or on our Facebook Live about an hour ago, I showed you a different perspective. The model has now updated, and by the time we get to 5 a.m., instead of seeing a whole lot of showers and storms across the area, we're not really seeing much moving on through that's overly significant. So hopefully that's a good sign. I will say by the time we get to roughly noon on Saturday, everything should be pretty much out of here. We're just dealing with a lot of cloud cover, maybe some lingering showers, but the heavy rain and storm threat will be over by that point. So with that new run of the Futurecast, this is also a new run of the forecast rainfall totals between now and going through the rest of this event. And notice most of this stuff is highlighted off to our east. Fort Payne at about 4 inches, Guntersville at 3, Boaz probably around 4 inches, and you see that purple area right here. You see the legend, that's getting up to about 6 or 7 inches of rainfall potentially. So that's where that heaviest band is most likely going to set up. So the majority of the rain that we've had today is probably going to be the heaviest so far, and that was still around 1 to 2 inches for a good amount of our viewing area. But now, as we go throughout the rest of the day, you tack on another ½ inch to maybe an inch to that total, and most of us across the Tennessee Valley probably around 2 to 3 inches of rainfall, and that will still lead to possibly some flooding problems going into the late evening and overnight. We're only talking about the typical flood-prone areas. If you have poor drainage on your roadways, get some a decent amount of ponding on your roadways, that stuff. We're not talking about major flash flooding to where homes are getting swept off their foundation and you're just getting feet and feet of water just rushing on through. We're not talking about that. We're talking about kind of a low-end flood risk, but that can still cause some issues. So overnight tonight, we continue to watch that storm threat with the heavy rainfall, lows generally in the lower and middle 60s. Going into tomorrow, it's going to be a little tricky temperature-wise. I think during the morning hours, we're going to end up being in the middle 60s, but once we get to the afternoon and evening, we're probably going to be dropping down into the 50s and 40s when that front moves on through. So depending on when it does, your high temperatures most likely will end up being in the morning as opposed to the afternoon. Now, take a look at your rain chances over the next 7 days. Obviously, today is going to be the best chance, 100% chance. Everybody's seeing some rainfall today. Next best chance ends up being on Wednesday, and maybe a low-end chance for a few showers possible on Thursday. So again, I will emphasize, I would still stay weather aware today and be careful if you're out and about. Obviously the roadways are wet. There still could be some ponding out there, and we'll have more rainfall to deal with during your evening and overnight hours. So that commute home probably going to be a wet one as well. I would also have multiple ways to get warnings in case they're needed, even if you aren't really dealing with much the way of severe weather. If you're in a flood-prone area, you might need to get a flash flood warning if it is issued for your area and take action very quickly. So just as a course of least regret, have ways to get warnings tonight. NOAA weather radio, weather apps. You can download our Tennessee Valley Weather app. It will alert you based on your location. So that's what we're dealing with for today and going into the early morning hours tomorrow. As we get into Saturday afternoon, like I mentioned, most areas probably dropping into the 50s temperature-wise, and then we're down into the 40s Sunday and Monday. Sunday is going to be a breezy day. I wouldn't be shocked if we see some wind gusts around 20 to 25 miles per hour, so it's going to make it feel a lot cooler than what the air temperature is. And like I said, next chance for a few showers will end up being on Wednesday, so at least we'll have a few days of some drier weather, albeit on the cooler side of things, especially with those lows. Look at that, down to the 20s and 30s once we get into next week. That's your latest forecast here from the Tennessee Valley Weather Center. Fred Gossage will be in at 5 p.m. He'll have another full check on your forecast, and him and Chase Wilson will most likely have you covered going into your evening hours, just in case some of the storms end up getting a little strong out there. But for the most part, I think we're just dealing with a lot of heavy rain. That's your latest forecast here. Everybody have a great Friday, great weekend, and I'll see you guys back here on Monday.
You're watching the Tennessee Valley Weather